So our speaker this evening is Tom Porter, who was a sub-chief, as a former sub-chief of the Mohawk Indian, Mohawk clan, the
nation.
in Mohawk Nation. I'll let him tell you about himself and his program. Thank you.
How long are we have to be together here?
45 minutes.
45 minutes.
On,
Okay,
the reservation.
that's going to go by just like a jet plane. Well, first of all, my real name is Sakokweniónkwas, and the Mohawk people and all Iroquois people has only supposed to have one name. But when Europeans came here, they had a hard time to say our language. So they used colonization and assimilation program, and they insisted that we also have, like they do, two names, an English name and a surname. And we didn't have a choice. They just say, you got to do that. But even though they said that, the Mohawk elders, especially the women, said, we'll do what you say, but we're not letting go of our original names. So even to this day, all traditional Mohawk babies have a first name is the way I told you, and then later on they have an English name to satisfy the United States and Canada. But in the last 30 years, there's been Mohawks who said, we're not going to do that anymore. We're just going to use our own Mohawk name as the Creator intended. But we don't have to do the other one. But it took a lot of courage for them to do it, because older people were afraid for them to do that, because the government won't like it. And it's true, they didn't like it. But they went to court, and a young little Mohawk girl won the court in Canada. So now we can only have one name, because that little Mohawk girl took it all the way to the highest court. And so it's now the law. But anyways, that's part of the history. Usually when the Iroquois people, when I say Iroquois, I'm a Mohawk, really. I'm a Mohawk, but I'm also an Iroquois. Because Mohawk, Oneidas, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, Tuscarora are all confederated into an Iroquois confederacy of nations. And so a lot of times Seneca and Mohawk would say we're Iroquois. And it's right, they're right. But they're also Seneca, just like if you say you're a New Yorker, well, you're also an American, or an Arizonian. They also are called the American. Well, that's the same with the Mohawk. We belong to the Mohawk Nation, but our federal government is the Iroquois Confederacy. And amongst all the Iroquois people, we are strictly, since the beginning of time, a matrilineal society. Everything is determined by woman. Everything. The children belongs to the woman. The naming of children is none of the men's business. It's only the women who has that authority to give names to. They can consult and ask their husband or whoever for a little opinion, but that's all it is, an opinion. She makes the final decision, the woman. Also, in our way, the women also have the responsibility to nominate which man will become religious or spiritual leaders for ceremonies. It has to go through and be nominated by women. And also which men can have a political office in government. The women have to nominate them and scrutinize them before they can be endorsed. That's the first, like if you're trying to make a home run, that's the first base. You got to get through the woman first. And then it's got to go through another process. That law is represented by this cane. This cane is only probably maybe 70 years old, this cane. But it's an exact replica of the canes that are 2,000 years old. But my uncle made this 60, 70 years ago, but it's exactly the way the 2,000-year-old canes are. And when I show you this, it is the same thing as I'm going to say to you. Our entire Constitution is in this hieroglyphics and in these pegs and in the cane itself. This cane is called, in English, they call it a condolence cane. So each of these pegs represent a different nation and leaders of a different nation. And so I'm going to just briefly explain to you this first set, and some of them are missing because I've been traveling and I didn't have time to replace it because it fell out because of my traveling, because I use it for what do you call it? Demonstration. Yeah. So some of them, 1, 2, 3 are missing. There's 9 of them in here. These 9, first set, are the Mohawk Nation leaders. This second set here, there's another 9, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 pegs that fell out just because of traveling. And those are the Oneida Nation leaders. And then this section here, there's only 1 fell out there. And these are 14 of them, and they're the Onondaga leaders. And then over here are Cayugas, and there are 10 of them leaders. And 2 of their pegs fell out by accident. And then over here are the Senecas, and they have 8 leaders there. But when I say leader, these are what you call, in my language, we call it Luyane. Luyane. That's the proper word. And the word Luyane is a masculine. Lu, like you said, Lu, it means it's a singular masculine. Yane means good or nice. So he, the singular, man who is of the good, is how it translates, is the man leader. He who is good, or he who is nice. And each peg, each of these pegs, it starts with a woman. And that woman, in English, they refer to them as clan mothers. They're the leader of the entire clan of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5,000 people. And usually it's the eldest woman, usually, but not always, but generally. Now that woman is the one who selects which man is going to become this position or this title. She will do the nomination process. She'll nominate them with the help of her people, of her clan or her family. And when we, like in your people's government, you have a Democratic and you have a Republicans, right? 2. Well, in the Mohawk, just the Mohawk Nation, we have 9 different parties. 9. And in the whole Iroquois Confederacy, we have 50 different parties. 50 different parties. And they make law by consensus. There's no majority and there's no minority. A law doesn't become a law until everybody agrees. It takes longer, but you don't need a police to enforce it. And you don't need an army to enforce it because everybody agreed. So you eliminate all your expense for army and police. So that sort of like it's good that it takes longer because it eliminates a whole big thing. Okay, now this woman will nominate 1 man who will become the leader, called Luyane. And her, it's almost the same. Yakoyane means singular female of the good. She is of the good. Yakoyane. If it's all these men, Ludiane son, the son part means all of them, good leaders. If it's women, Gudiane son means all of the women leaders is good leaders. And so every one of these are referred to as the good men. If it's the women, it's the good woman. And we don't say president or prime minister. We say the nice man the good woman that's our leaders. And also, as part of this Constitution that's 2,000 years old, no man who's a leader will completely be disqualified if he ever murdered somebody or has blood stain on his hand. Even if it was an army and you have to go to army and you have to kill, that eliminates him forever to never become one of these. It's opposite of what European is. Usually European is if you're a good killer, I mean a good colonel, general, leads armies and shoots people, you become prime minister and you become president. Like it seems like the tradition. The opposite in Iroquois. Because we only want peace people to lead our children and our women and our nation on peace. And that's embedded in this Constitution. Now, but I didn't come here to talk about the Constitution so much, unless you want to talk about it. Because I'm going to tell you, to recite this Constitution, it takes 10 days to recite it. And I'm talking about they'll start at 8 o'clock in the morning until 1 o'clock without no coffee break, without no tea break. They just continuously orally talk it for 10 days, sometimes 11 days to recite this. So we're talking about not little stuff. And we have special people. And because we are an oral tradition, everything's in here. So there are men and women, mostly men, and sometimes women, whose job it is to be the keepers of the knowledge of the law or of the spiritual. It depends. And so they usually call them wampum keepers, because wampum belts like this one here are events of history in the past. And all wampum belts, Onondagas and Seneca called them Gashwanta. That's what their language is, Gashwanta. Mohawk, different, little dialect, different, almost the same, but different. Our word for those wampum belts are the Gashwateta. But that word Gashwanta is in there, the Gashwateta. So translate to you our word for all recorded belts, the Gashwateta. If I tell you to look at the sun shines. And when the sun shines, I can see you and you can see me because the sun shines the light so we can see. When the sun shines the light, we can see the trees that's in the forest and the rivers and the mountains because the sun shines. So everything that Creator made becomes visible and clear to see. And so that's the word, it's called the Gashwateta. He shines the light. These shine the light of agreements that were made that lead to peace in the future. And that's why they're important. That every little while they must be read and they must be renewed, so they don't be forgotten, so they will not be forgotten. Because if you don't tell the truth in history, guess what happens? It starts all over again. The trouble, the bloodshed, the problem. You got to tell the truth. And that's what this law is based on. Pure truth. Also in this law, I want to tell you, it says that each of these men leaders will be, I don't know, see, my English is only second language. First is Mohawk. So I'm going to use scrutinized by the women. But there's another word I think Americans use, vetted. Is that what you call it? Vetted? They got to be vetted. I just learned that not too long ago. I hope I'm saying it in the right context. But I would say to scrutinize them from their toe of their feet all the way to the top of their head. They want to know everything about that man who's going to be the leader. And one of the law in the Constitution here, that's 2,000 years old. It says Runakwatouka or Yakonu Yukunakwatouka. One means a man and one is a woman. It means that they have to be only one husband, only one wife. You can't have two wives, only one. One wife. And it means you also can't have a girlfriend after work, or I don't know what you call that in American language, but you can do that, because if you do that, you will be taken out of office just like that. If you violate woman in any way. And the same with the woman. She's to have only one man. And the only way she can have another man is if he dies. And the only way he can have another woman is if his wife dies. But he can't kill her. It's got to be natural. It's really not funny, but it is. Because some people will do that. I heard. And also rape is a big it's like murder, rape of a woman. And not only just physical rape of a woman is forbidden in here, but just the thought or talking of men about women, what do you call it? Not psychological, is it psychological? When you orally, men is talking about a woman, like degrading her, that is considered rape, even without the physical part. And if that happens, they can also be dismissed from office. It's the big crime. And that's all in this Constitution that's 2,000 years old. And that's when I was thinking over the different presidents in the United States, they wouldn't last long in Iroquois. But you know, our leaders that we have, we love them. We love them. Our women leaders, we love them. And we will stand in the front if anybody harm comes to them, and we will give our life for them, because they don't lie. And they don't mess around with other people's wife or husband. They're there for ceremonies. They're there for prayer. They're there for all life. And that's why we'll put ourselves in the front if danger comes to them. And without a blink of an eye. And that's what America needs today. It has to be restored. That's the only way. And then I'm going to stop on this part, unless you want to talk about something else about it. But I'm going to tell you. In 1754, did you guys ever hear of a man named Joseph Brant? Joseph Brant was my father's great grandfather, and my great grandfather. Joseph Brant's grandpa was one of the four leader of the Mohawk that went to Queen Anne in England way back. Sometime if you see in the history book, they call them the four Mohawk kings, but they're not kings, they were leaders. But European has no other word for leader except king or queen. So that's why they call our leader that, but we're not that kind. Well, that was my great grandfather. Well, now in 1754, my great grandfather went to Albany with other of my grandfathers, my direct grandfathers, at the invitation of Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson in the Schenectady. We say Schenectady. Well, that's what they call Schenectady now, but it's not that way. It's Schenectady. And Schenectady means, in the Mohawk language, on the other side of the pines. And we call it a pine tree, Ohneta, means gum, because when you cut the bark, gum comes out of there, sticky gum. So we call all pine Skahonekta. So Skahnektadi on the other side of the gum trees. So everything Albany area, past the Schenectady and all through Schenectady and past those pines, all those towns is what we call Schenectady, not just that town or city today. You see, that's the history. And then while we're on this language part, when you say Adirondack, do you know what's that? That's a Mohawk word, Adirondack. Adirondack means, and we call it the porcupine, la dilundaks. That's what we call porcupine, la dilundaks. And there used to be Ojibwe people lived here too before. And the Ojibwe people who lived here before used to take some of the tree barks and season their food when they cook with, just like you put garlic in your food or something, or, you know, sage or something to spice your food. Well, the Ojibwe used to use the different bark of the trees to do the same thing for their food. And so we call those people Ojibways, La Diluntaks, the same as a porcupine, because the porcupine eats the tree. And so we said the Ojibways, they eat part of the tree to season their food. So this whole region, we call it Adirondacks, La Diluntaks, full of Ojibwe or full of porcupine. So everybody lives here is all porcupine people. Because they eat the bark of a tree. Ladilundaks, that's what it means. But the people couldn't say Ladilundaks, so they say Adirondack. And the other thing I want to share with you too is Canada. The word Canada is a Mohawk word. It's said Ganata. Ganata. Can you say it? Ganata. Ganata means a village. A village. Canada, but again, they can't say it the way we say it, Canada, so they said Canada. And that's Canada, is a Mohawk word. And it goes on a lot of time, every place around, it's like that. In New York City, my grandma and grandpa call it, all the Mohawks call it, Ganuno. And the reason the Ganuno means a pipe. Smoke going out of the pipe, because over there they start to make factories and all early, and smoke going up all over the place. That's what we call it, the place of the pipes. Smoke going up. They call New York City Ganuno. Even today, all Mohawks say that. And then maybe one more thing before I'm going to share with you a little bit. George Washington. When a European came here, all the Iroquois people, and probably the Ojibways and the others, people, Nandikooks and Eries and all them, very similar to us. We feed them, we doctor them, we give them a place to be warm when they came here. But too many came, wave after wave came. And pretty soon it wasn't enough. They want the land. And that's when trouble started. And then George Washington, he came to see us in my great grandpa's time. And he doesn't want the Ohio and Michigan Native people there under Tecumseh to fight them, because Tecumseh wanted to war them because they were taking their land, the same as what they did to us. But George Washington, prior to that, came and they made a treaty with George Washington, and they set up boundary lines for the Iroquois. And they said, okay, and on from the other boundary side, this is where Europeans can settle and raise their families. And they said, and George Washington and my grandfather said, and we'll never break that as long as the sun shines, as long as the grass is growing, as long as the river flows, we'll never promise. And the reason George did that, he didn't mean one word of it. He did not mean nothing. He just wanted to make sure the Iroquois nations don't ally with Tecumseh. That's why. And so when Tecumseh sent a delegation of war people, he said to the Iroquois, they're taking all our land, the whole land from us and killing us too. We have to stop it. But the Iroquois leader said, we met with George Washington and we made the treaty. As long as the sun shines, there will be no war. No, we're not going to war them. They're not going to war us. We will work together. So they told Tecumseh no. And Tecumseh went back. And the Iroquois, they didn't do that. But in the time of the revolution with England, what George Washington did, because they didn't have no money, he raised up army, couldn't hardly feed them, and Iroquois sent hundreds of bushels of beans and corn to feed them, the American army under the George Washington. Carried bushels of corn, hundreds of miles on their back to feed them. And while this was a war going on, George Washington and his agents had large tracts of land that he paid his soldiers when the war is over. That's yours. It's a Mohawk's land, Seneca's land, Oneida's land. And he said on a treaty, never as long as the sun shines. He took on everything, the whole state of New York. And not only that, but the Mohawk and other Iroquois held the Europeans off for 100 years. Keep them on the East Coast. Don't let them go past. For 100 years. Can you imagine that? For 100 years. But after a while, too many. Like I said, the wave on the ocean, we can't handle. So, because we did that, George Washington says the Iroquois got to go. So he sent General Sullivan and Clinton to attack the Iroquois communities, stations. There are signs all over as you follow the thruway. Clinton's raid. And he burned all the corn storage bins we had. In one village in Seneca in Conontagan, New York, Victor, according to Clinton and Sullivan's soldier, every night after they make war and they fight in the Iroquois, they sit down as the sun goes down and they write in their journal what they see, what they did that day and yesterday, and what they're going to do tomorrow. And in the journals that was retrieved by my people, in just the one village of Seneca in Conontagan, they found in that one little village 260,000 bushels of corn already shucked in storage bins. 260,000 bushels. In the same village, according to that diary of that journal of the Clinton soldiers, they found 160,000 bushels of beans already taken out of the thing. And they burn all of it. They burn it all to the ground. And we had dozens of cherry orchards, peach orchards, apple orchards, plum orchards, and burn all of it. Burn the villages. That's what they did. Not just to Seneca, Cayugas, Onondagas. And as a result of that betrayal of George Washington, the Iroquois changed the name of George Washington. They added a name to him. And they said his name is going to be Lanadagallas George Washington. And then after he died, every president after that became president, like for instance, Lanadagallas Eisenhower, Lanadagalias, John F. Kennedy, Lanadagalias, what's his name now? That black man was president. Obama. What's his other name? Oh, Barack. Lanadagalias, Barack Obama. And then Lanadagalias is Donald Trump. And then Lanadagalias is Mr. Biden. You know what it means? Lanadagalias? The one who destroys the villages, the town destroyer. So now every time any Iroquois to this day, I'm not kidding you, when they ever write to the president for some kind of killing, they'll say, if they're writing to Biden, they'll say, Lanadagalias Biden is stuck to this day. And some people asked me one time, that's in the past. When are you Iroquois going to be forgiven and not do that to the president anymore? When the president apologizes for lying and breaking promise, then we will consider to remove that title. Then we will do that, not then till then. But this is some of the real history I'm telling you about. Yeah. But let's close the chapter on that one. But schools don't talk about this. Nowhere. They don't talk about nothing. The only thing that says the mind of people is that cowboy Indian. Ooh, like that. That's what's in there. And that's what's in the mind of a lot of Americans, because they don't know the truth. But that law in 1754, my great grandpa, and I even got pictures of it. It's not picture like a Kodak. It was the people of that colonial time hired artists to draw when my great grandfather was at Schenectady, Albany meeting, they call it in English. And it's in that education building in Albany. It's 12 foot high, the wall, big. And at the bottom of those paintings is in gold, 1754 Albany meeting. That's the picture. I have that at my house because somebody went there, took a picture. I went there to education and I seen it myself. This is my daughter. They're out there. They just got here. And my grandkids, they came from the reservation. And my granddaughters, maybe after that, they're a little bit bashful too, you know. But they great grandkids too coming too. Why don't you just come on in? Nobody bites on here. Come on in. This is great grandson right here. Diego. By golly. Yeah. I got about, I think, 10 great grandkids. This is my daughter here. Her name is Jagwas. And this is her daughter, Joelio. And this is my other great granddaughter, Yayandalis, right here. So they come to the meeting too. So what the question is go over there and sit down. Okay. So that's what I want to tell. That 45 minutes, is it another 30 minutes to go? Huh? Okay. This is the last part I'm going to tell you now. This is more on the spiritual ceremonial part. In our story of creation of our grandma and grandpa, they say that there's another planet in the solar system that's similar to the Earth here. And that planet is where our great grandma came from, that planet. And she crossed over to the planet Earth. And she's the one brought life here. That's why all Iroquois and over half of all natives in the United States and Canada follow matrilineal because of that woman. That's why. And then when she came here from the other planet, there was no Adirondack Mountains here, no Rocky Mountains. There was no England, no India, no Africa, no North America, South America. They said only water surrounded the whole earth, no land anywhere. And the only life that lived here was turtles, fish, otters, beavers, muskrat, or any birds that had webs between their fingers and their toes and had a skin that could stand water and live in water. But other animals that don't have webs like humans and other animals don't have webs between their toe and their fingers, we're all Johnny come latelys. We came late on the scene. That's the one our grandma brought our life here. And they say when she fell here, they don't know what she's going to do because it's all surrounded with water. And she don't come from a land where there's a lot of water. And she don't know how to swim either yet. So the birds seen her, the geese and the herons and all that. And so they flew there they were nosy. They said, what the heck's this coming down the sky? So they went nosy and flew over there. And they looked at her. That's when they noticed no webs between her fingers and her toes. And they knew that she's going to land where the water is on the earth. She's going to drown. You'll never know more woman. So they got together their feathers and locked together. And they caught her on the soft feathers. And they glide her down to the water. And they said, and so one of the water bird, I will dive down and I'm going to holler for all the water animals to come up. And I'm going to tell them of this crisis we got, of this creature coming from the sky. And to see if they can find how we help her. So the big turtle came up, the big ocean turtle. And he said, put her on the middle of my back. And so they put her on the middle of the turtle's back. And when they did that, because she came from the other world, and she's on that turtle's back, and she stood on the middle of the turtle's back, and she said, when I fell from there, there was a hole next to the tree, and this tree is called a celestial tree. And this particular tree that grows in the other world, it grows every imaginable fruit on one tree. Apples, oranges, peaches, plum, the whole works on one tree. And when she fell at the base of that tree, when she noticed she's falling through to this world, she grabbed and clutched anything she could get her hands on so she won't fall, but it's too late. So she grabbed strawberries and raspberries and peaches, seeds, but she continued to fall. So that's why we have big strawberry ceremonies, all the Iroquois, when the strawberries come, because that's the first, it came from the other planet to this world. It's not from here. So it's peaches and raspberries. And we got ceremonies for that. So now all the animals just holding on the big turtle, looking at her. How can they help her? And she said, all these seeds I can plant it and it will be food, sustenance. But I have to have dirt. It won't grow if you don't have a dirt. So the beaver people, the beavers, they said, we heard that our great grandfathers told us that at the bottom of the big water that there's dirt, but none of us ever been there. We don't know if it's really true. And then Otter said same thing. We heard our uncles say that too, but none of us ever been there to see if it's true. And Muskrat said same thing. Well, if we want to save that woman, we have to try to go dive down there and retrieve that dirt for her so she can plant those seeds and she will live. So the beaver says, well, I'm the big strong guy. I got a big tail that can propel me right through the water. I'm strong. So he ran from the turtle and dove in the turtle in the big water. Splashed, the waves went up, down the beaver went. And did you ever see if you take a balloon and you blow it up and you hold it under the water, let it go, pop, it comes out? That's what happened to the beaver. But he was dead. He didn't make it down. So they retrieved him and he was dead, unsuccessful. So next the otter said, oh, let me try it. I'm not as strong as the beaver, but if we don't try, she's gonna die. So the otter ran on the turtle, jumped in and went down, and his body came up like a balloon out of the water. He died too. And they all took turn. Finally, the scroungiest one of all of them was a muskrat. And he said, I'm not strong like the beaver, and I'm not slender and like an arrow or spear, otters and so on. But what I'm going to do, I'm the littlest, scroungiest, weakest one of all. But I want to see that lady live. So he got on the turn, he ran his jump in there, up the water went, and down he went, way down. He was gone longer than the beaver, longer than everybody. And all of a sudden, his little body bopped out of the big water. He was dead too. But they went over there and they swim over there and they grabbed his little body and put it on top of the turtle. And they touched him all over the place. He was cold. And when they touched their hand on his chest, there was like a pinhead warmth. His heart is still moving. So they jump on his belly and water and gushing out. They push his belly again and water went out. They resuscitate him. And when he opened his little black hands, he had particles of dirt from the bottom of big water. And then you know how some young guys, I know if it's Mohawks, they like to put that snuff in between their lips. I think young Americans do it too. Copenhagen and so on. Well, that's what that muskrat did too. When they opened his lips, he had some of that dirt in there between his lips. And they took it out, they give it to the woman from the other planet, our great-great-grandma. And then what she did is she put it on the middle of the turtle, and then she started to walk counterclockwise. And she began to chant the language from the other planet. That's what my grandma and grandpa and all of them says. The Mohawk that we talk, that's the original language that great-grandma spoke. That's why we don't want to lose our language, because it came from the beginning. And as she walked in a circle counterclockwise, the miracle of birth occurred. And those small little particles of granules from the bottom of the big water began to multiply. And as it multiplied, the turtle's back started to grow. And it became North America, South America. No, it just came one big land, one big land. There was no other continents, just that one. And anyways, that's why we go counterclockwise in our ceremonies to this day. That's why even when we're in school, if the teacher comes to pass papers in American school to us, Mohawk, we always told her, you got to pass it, go counterclockwise. Don't go the other way, this way, that way. Always go the way Grandma did. Because if you go the other way, it means death will come. And that's our teachings. So when I went to school with the American government school, we have to teach it. If they listen, a lot of them just laugh. Oh, that's hogwash. You told us. Okay. Well, anyways, that's enough of that part. Now, what I want to tell you, to do the creation story will take maybe 2, 3, or 4 days just to talk about that. So what I told you is just a little bit of creation. But that's where the night and day came from, because twins were born. That's where death and birth came. That's where tears of sadness and smiles of happiness came from the day, the night, the negative, the positive that's in you and me, that's in every tree and every water. It's in everything that we do, negative and positive. And if it's not a negative and positive operating in our body, you know what that means? You're dead. You can't function. It's just like a car, my uncle said. I'll give you an example. He said, every car's got a battery in there. And on the battery, there's a positive and a negative post. And if one of those don't work, the car will not start. You got to be both working. So the native people, our spirituality, we don't have a devil or Satan in our belief system. We only have those two twins. One represents the night, one represents the day. One represents the death, one represents the birth. One represents happy times and the other crying time. And it takes both in order for us to live. If there's no more night, we all going to die. No, if there's just day, we all going to die too. It's got to be balanced, the same, both. So that's why you and our kids, sometime when we're young, it's easy to get in trouble as soon as the sun goes down, because the power of the negative one is dominant at night. So when you go out at night, easy to get in trouble, mischievous trouble. But we don't condemn them, because that's part of their learning. That's part of what they got to do in order to grow up, to have balance. So you got to always be close to them at that time of teenager year, because that's when they think they know everything more than anybody. And it's all right that they think that, but that's why mother and father's got to be not too far behind uncle and aunt, grandma and grandpa, to rein them in so they won't get hurt and go overboard and make it through that time. Doesn't matter if you're Indian, Seneca, or Cheyenne, or Irish, or Polish, they're all going to do that age. That's why we have ceremonies for them too. When a girl starts her monthly period and a man begins to change his voice in puberty, then they take them and put him in the mountain, put him through sweat lodges, put him in the hills for 4 days and 4 nights by themselves with no water, no food, to connect with the spirit of the universe, to help them have the power to survive and have a good life. And that's what we do for our young people. But then I'm going to do a short, how much time? I don't want to overextend. Okay. So now what I'm going to do to tell you is back to the creation. When they took the twin boys from the grandmother's daughter, because she was pregnant when she fell, they were born, and one, they call it left-hand twin. In my language, we say Sawiskala, twin. He didn't want to be born the normal way that his brother was born. So he said, I'm going to go a different route. This time he kick and he cut and he bite and he scratch here to come out his mother here. And in the process, she hemorrhaged to death, but he was born. And so now the grandmother, who originally came from other planet, that's her daughter, died, giving birth to twins. And she was so upset because she loved her daughter. And so she put her daughter on the ground and she didn't know what to do. So she took some container, I don't know if it was a basket or a clay vessel or something, or a bark container. And she went way over there and she took dirt and put it in there. And as her daughter lay on the ground, she put the dirt on top of her like a blanket. And she kept going back and forth until there was a mound. She didn't dig under the ground. She brought dirt from over there and mounded her on top of the ground. And then where her body was, that's the time when all the people, human beings, start to say the earth is our mother, because she was the first one now to get mounded. And now the earth, since that time, it doesn't matter if you're a Mohawk or Cheyenne, Navajo, even if you're from Black Africa, anybody in the world that still follows the original teachings, they will refer to the earth as their mother. Yeah, that's really true. And so now, where her body lies, where her head was in the grave, grew corn and beans and squash. And amongst the Iroquois, we call them Akwasasne. That means the three sacred sisters. And that's the one we call Gyohikwa, means sustenance. That will be our sustenance in the future when humans are made. And then on the other parts of her body, right here, grew a wild potatoes. It grows by the rivers even today. You don't have to plant it. It grows by itself. It's medicine too, good food. And the other parts of her body grew wild carrots and turnips and all kinds of different things. And that all together is what we call Gyohikwa. And translate Gyohikwa means our sustenance for the future generations of people, humans. They will get that to be live and have the power. And then after that, all of a sudden, they noticed something grew right here in the grave where her heart was, our mother. A special plant, different from corn or beans or squash or carrots or turnip or cabbage or stuff like that, different. This plant is called, my language, Chronologically, means the pure tobacco. Pure tobacco grew from our mother's heart. And then my uncle said, when he was telling me this, when I was young, he said, then the Creator talked to them. And he says, when humans are going to be made, when you are going to make humans with the power I give you, he says, each humans in the future, you, he's talking about you and me and you and every one of us, that from our birth until we die, there will be times when you and I, the people, well, as we walk, we'll bump into a solid mountain wall and you can't proceed that direction. Okay, well, I'll turn and I'll go south. But I hit a stone mountain wall again. Then I say, I'll go the other way, east. I'll go a little ways and I mountain solid rock. Then I'm going to go the other way, north, another mountain. So all around me is a mountain made of stone, like a cage. You can't move, can't go anywhere. He says, and all of you during your life, once or twice, will find yourself in that situation. And when you do, that's how come he said, I sent you this Chronologically, the sacred tobacco from your mother's heart. You know why? Measure the power and the strength of a mother to her kids. What will she do if something comes to her kids? She'll become a tiger. She'll become a bulldozer. She'll become an elephant if any danger comes to her kids, because she's a mother. And so from your mother's heart, I send you the spirit tobacco. And when that happens to you, you're enclosed, you know what to do. You will build a sacred fire or use a pipe, and you'll put that sacred tobacco from your mother's heart and light it and put the smoke up and cry my name 3 times. And I don't care what time of day or night, blizzard or hurricane, when that light goes up and you cry my name, I will move those mountains. I will move and you can go on. And that's what my uncle said, and that's true. Because I'm almost 80 years old now. And I had to do that several times to move mountain. And it does work. So then I skip a lot now. Now they come to making the human beings. And so they made, and in our story, the way Grandma told it, the first humans that were made to live on earth are black people. Before the white man, before Indian, before Chinese, is black people. They're the first ones. Then the second one to be made is the white one. The third one is the Asian. And the very last one are the Mohawks, Lakota, Cheyenne, were the last. And that's all story two by itself. But that's, we're not gonna talk about that one right now. And so when he finished that, now those two boys, the night and the day, are gonna, they're told to make the humans out of the dirt, the water, the air, and the fire. Use those and you mold it. So the one twin look at his brother as a template or a blueprint, how to make a human. You look at his brother, got 10 toes, you put 10 toes on that with the water and the fire and all that, and got 2 arms and hands, put it on there too. Got 2 eyes, put it on there. 2 ears, put it on there. So he finished, and the other brother look at him, and he made it too, just like that. And so that's why we became replicas of them, all of us. And they made many men and many women out of the dirt, the water, and the fire, and the air. And then when they finish, they put it in the fire to give it life. That's why my uncle says, touch yourself or touch somebody next to you, they're warm. Because the fire was putting us, when they put us in the fire for life to be. But when we're done, our life, touch it again. No more heat, cold, done. That's the sacred. So long as the sun shines, that's where that fire came from that made us live, from the sun. So the head of all fire is the sun. That's why Lakota, Cheyenne, Navajo, Mohawk, we have sun dance ceremonies yet. Because we don't want the sun to go out. Because we know if the sun goes out, all our kids is going to go out. All our people is going to go out. Old, young, babies, every tree will die. So we make big ceremonies. Sun, be strong, don't go out. Help us to live. And so on. It goes like that. So now he finished and he made those men. I love it when I hear them talking my language, their Mohawk language, when I was young. And my one grandfather said to me, he says, "Ono hasa wasoko ya duni. Ne wasoko dastanya, juhunjate. And wasoko tahla se. Nenejini honi gohloda sangwaya diso. Ne wasoko nigohlata." That means at the beginning, when he finished making the dolls out of the dirt, the fire, and the air, and all that, when he finished the man and woman, he said he stood the man up and he stood the woman side by side, all of the different colors of them. And then he said, now their mind is completely empty, only their body, and they're living and breathing, but their mind doesn't have nothing to, it's blank. Like a cassette never been recorded. And so the creator says he began now and he took his thinking and he transferred it into their brain. That's what our ceremonies is all about all year round. That's why we never quit, because those are the instructions. So I'm going to ask you now I'm going to do the Reader's Digest one, because I know you said 45 minutes, an hour or so ago. So I'm going to ask you to help me so that you'll understand what I'm talking about. When I'm going to say to you, when I'm doing this, I'm going to do it in English. It usually takes an hour, a little over an hour. And when they do this, the leaders, every meeting they have to do this. And when they finish the meeting, they have to do it again. So that's 2 hours just to open and close a meeting. But from there is the instruction, because in the meeting, the preamble in our mind is pre-done through our genetics, our DNA, is that the meeting has to be done like that, so that whatever decision that meeting is going to make has not to injure or harm the 7th generation tomorrow that will be born. So whatever meeting we're going to do, not one of it hurt our kid or their kids or their kids for 7 generations. That's why we have to be sure. That's why there will be no police, there'll be no army, because they all understood. And it takes time to understand. But if you want to rush through, then hurricane blows everything all over. And that's what's happening now in the country. So now we're going to do it. So whenever I say to you, and our mind is agreed, old Mohawk, they'll say toe, like the toe on your feet. That's the old language when we say yes, or formally say yeah, toe. But if you want to be traditionally and sort of somewhat semi-modern, you can say uh-huh. Or if you want to be ultra-modern, you can say yeah. And it doesn't matter. But my uncle and old people said, but you got to say something. And don't whisper, because the trees needs to hear you. The birds needs to hear you. The Mother Earth needs to hear you. The wind needs to hear you. The sun needs to hear you. And if they all hear you, we are united together in life. That's what he said, our uncle. That's what our grandma said too. And that's what we carry. We're trying to tell them, so our kids and grandkids will know all this stuff. So then now he began. Now we're going to start. Is our mind agreed? Good. Oh, good Mohawks in here. First one.
Looking at him.
Our creator. He's in you and you and you and me. And our creator is also in those trees and those bushes. And our creator is in the water, and the creek and the river and the lake and the ocean. Creator's in the sun and the moon and the wind. Anything that lives, creator is in there. So all life is all part of the creator.
I know you hate that song. Yeah.
And so our creator gave us this wonderful night tonight, this day, when the sun is going down. Here in this town, you and I can come together, organize to meet together.
He's having a party.
So I'm going to ask you and us to symbolically put before us many layers of thank you, greetings, and love. And then we say we pick it up jointly and with our kids, and we throw it into the universe. We say, Creator, thank you for the miracle that we were gathered in here right at this moment, at this time. We're still living. Thank you, Creator. With love, and our mind is agreed. All the most beautiful woman in the whole universe is right here. We're lucky. Then I look around, I see our elder men and the younger men, and it's, oh, there's a little boys out there. Best handsome looking guys in all the universe is right here. That's why we're lucky. And so what we will do again is put our thank you, greetings, and love in the front of us. And then we will give part of it to each of you in each other. So we say thank you that we are shoulder to shoulder this evening and sharing about the Creator and the sacredness of the universe. And our mind is agreed. And then it is now we look at the rivers and the waters and everywhere. At the beginning, the Creator, He made the water, and Mother Earth made the water. And when the Creator touched the water, He put a soul and a spirit in the water. Grandma said. And that water can talk. And the Creator said that water, you will start at the mountaintop and in the clouds, and you'll come down on top of the mountain and go through the valleys. And when you go see the Mohawks and the Cheyenne, the Navajo, the Polish, the Swedish, the Italian, you will stop and you will quench their thirst every day. And they will have the satisfaction of life again. And that's true. And then he said to the water, because I gave you life, you will always move. And that's why when you look at creeks, never stay still, always going. When you look at ocean, wave after wave, fresh water all the time. If you walk in a small mountain, you see small creeks. They're whispering like little children as they trip over little stones, whisper like a baby. But if you want to hear them roar, you go to Niagara Falls and you'll hear big voice of the water. So they can talk and they can sing if you want to listen. In fact, the Niagara Falls is so strong that if you go too close, they want to take you with them, almost pull you. So you got to be careful when you do that. They got power. And so the water's still quenching our thirst every day. And when we're grimy from working in the garden, we jump in the river and clean ourselves or shower ourselves. Oh, it feels good, healthy, strong. And so to the waters of the world, you and I put many thank yous and greetings and love, layers of it. And then you and I will pick it up in our kits and throw it north, south, east, and west. So every creek and every river and every lake and every ocean will receive our thank you for the quenching of our thirst. Again, today, the Creator's plan is still going and our mind is agreed. And then it goes on to the animals, the deer, goes on to the tree. The maple tree is the chief of all the trees of the forest. Then it goes on to the eagle, the birds, the thunders, the wind, four sacred wind, to our old brother sun, to our grandmother the moon, to the stars that beautify at nighttime and bring the morning dew in drought time on every grass, to the four unseen forces of the universe, the helpers of our Creator, the one that give us dreams and visions so that our leaders will know what to do when danger comes, how to protect our kids. Yes, our Creator and Mother Earth did a wonderful thing when they let us live here. It's a miracle. And so I ask you and I, let us put it symbolically and spiritually, layer of thank you, layer of greetings and kindness and love in that pile. And you and I will pick it up and throw it into the universe. Say, Creator, thank you for the perfect world we live in. Thank you. And our mind is agreed. And that is the Reader's Digest that usually takes it home. Now, wait. But now just one more, then I'm going to quit. So y'all can go to sleep. Let's say, I wish I would have brought a doll with me, but I didn't. But when our babies are born, here's what we do. That what I just told you is what the Creator took from his mind and put it into the empty blanks of the men and women he created from the dirt, the water, the fire, the air. Our great grandmother and grandfathers. That's the one. And that's what he said will be your instructions as long as river runs, as long as grass grows. That's forever. So when a baby is born to our woman, because we're matrilineal, well, the father who fathered the baby is going to be there, but he's a different clan than that mother. But that woman who's going to have the baby, her eldest brother or her uncle, her mother's brother, will go there at the birth with the father, biological father. And the seconds after the baby is born, they didn't even wash the baby yet. All they do is clean the nostrils from the mucus of birth and clear the mouth so the baby can breathe. And they hand it over to the uncle or to the father. And the first thing the father does is uses that, what we just did. But there's only difference is, he says now, first, Creator, thank you. You sent a brand new human being to us, a gift. And our baby is good and healthy and strong. And mother is good too, healthy and strong. Thank you, Creator. And Creator, this baby, his name gonna be Aluhenos. That's my son's name. I use example. And you say the name 3 times to the Creator. When you send him here, you know him by the way you know him. But now that he's here on this planet Earth, he's going to have a planet Earth name, Aluhenos. And you tell the Creator 3 times his name that the women chose for him. And then you say to your baby, he's only seconds old. You say, my son or my grandson, whatever the case is, the Creator sent you here. And ask how many days the Creator allow you to live here. Maybe only 1 year, and he's going to take you back. Maybe 20 years to take you back. Maybe 110 years and he'll take you back. You and I don't know that because he put it in his back part so we can't see it, how long I'm going to live. But every day you'll carry a good mind, night and day. No rumor, no gossip, because that's character assassination. You only say good things, nourishing things to your kids, your nephews and nieces, so they can grow. And so my little baby, I want you to know the Creator sent you here, Aluhenos, and I want you never to forget our Creator. I want you to always, all your life, however many days you're going to live, respect and love the Creator forever. And when you are ever needing help, Creator give us tobacco. He said to ask him day or night. He help you. And so my little son, Aluhenos and Creator, I have formally introduced you together to begin your journey. And then you say to the little baby, Mother Earth, great grandmother, Mother Earth, the first mothers. You're the one that makes the food we eat every day, morning, midday, and supper time, and in between snack. It's all came from your bosom. Every single bit. And Mother Earth, thank you that you have never abandoned us since the beginning of time. You never threw us away when we forgot to respect you. You still feed us. And Mother Earth, my little grandson was born. His name is Aluhenos. I asked you to feed him from your bosom, your body, like you fed me, as many days as he's going to live. Mother Earth, his name is Aluhenos. Always be there for him. And when he walks on you, on your back, always know his feet, his body as he journeys you. And then after you say, my son Aluhenos, the earth is our mother. I want you every day, as long as you live, even if you're 120 years old, when you're ready to go. But every one of those days, I want you to respect and love your mother, the earth, always. The ceremony is going for her all the time. You are part of it all the time, as long as you live. And so Mother Earth and my son, I have formally introduced you together, how you will journey together. And then it goes to the animals, to the berries, strawberries, to the deers, to the maple tree, and it climbs all the way up to the Creator. And that speech, every Iroquois baby that's born, we're supposed to tell them that seconds after they breathe the air of this earth, so that they will know how to live on the sacred Mother Earth and to adore this precious miracle the Creator gave us. And so with that, I'm going to close it because I think we went over time, but it's a nice pleasure and a great honor that you have invited me. And I'm so happy my family came too over here. And so we're going to quit now and what see me somewhere, you never can tell because you got fast car now. And I do too. So if you see me in Albany or Syracuse or Chicago, you see me, you wave, and I'm gonna wave back to you. Thank you.